Welcome back to my channel, Sisi Abuja, and if you're new, you're welcome as well. Today's story is about the Good Samaritan of Makoko. Once upon a time, Makoko, the floating slum of Lagos, was a suburb unlike any other. Houses sat on stilts above the murky waters. Boats replaced cars, and the air was thick with the scent of smoked fish and the salty tang of the sea breeze. Life was hard here. People struggled to survive on fishing and petty trade, yet the community was tight-knit, bound by shared hardship. Among them was Baba Ade, a grizzled old fisherman known for his kindness. He wasn't rich, but he had a heart that could hold an ocean of compassion. His wife had passed years ago, and his only daughter had left Makoko in search of a better life in the city. Baba Ade lived alone in a small wooden house with a thatched roof and spent his days fishing and giving away whatever little he could spare to those in need. But this story isn't about Baba Ade. This story is about a stranger, a good Samaritan, who came into Makoko when hope was running dry. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, a canoe drifted into the village. Inside sat a man with tired eyes, his skin darkened by the sun, his clothes tattered from travel. His name was Elijah. He had come from the north, where drought and conflict had ravaged his homeland. The people of Makoko watched him with weary eyes. Strangers rarely come here, unless they were from government official duty or journalists looking to document poverty. Elijah, however, was neither. He was a man with a burdened soul and nowhere else to go. Baba Ade was the first to speak. "Welcome, traveler. What brings you to Makoko?" Elijah hesitated, then said, "I seek a place to rest. I have traveled far and have nothing left." The villagers murmured among themselves, unsure of whether to trust him. But Baba Ade, with his old and wise heart, simply nodded. "Then rest here. A man without a home should not be turned away." And so, Elijah stayed. Over the next few weeks, Elijah learned about the struggles of Makoko. The children had no schools, the sick had no hospitals, and clean water was a luxury. The government barely acknowledged their existence, and NGOs came and went without lasting change. Despite their struggles, the people of Makoko were kind. They shared their meager food with Elijah, taught him how to navigate the waterways, and slowly he became one of them. One day, while helping an old woman repair her roof, Elijah asked, "Why does no one help Makoko?" Baba Ade sighed. "People help, but it is never enough. They come, take pictures, and leave. No one stays." That night, Elijah lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the small hut Baba Ade had given him. He had come here seeking help, but now he realized he had been sent here to help. Elijah was not a rich man, but he was resourceful. He had once been a teacher in his homeland before war had taken everything from him. He decided that if no one would help Makoko, then he would. The next morning, he gathered the village children on a floating platform and began to teach them. He used charcoal to write on wooden planks, turning them into makeshift blackboards. He taught them to read, to count, to dream beyond the waters of Makoko. Word spread quickly, and soon parents were sending their children to learn from the stranger. Fishermen who had never cared for books sat at the edges of the class, listening in. Even Baba Ade, as old as he was, sat with the children, eager to learn. But education was just the beginning. With time, Elijah began to organize the villagers. He taught them how to build better homes using bamboo and reclaimed materials. He convinced them to dig wells for cleaner water and showed them how to use simple herbal remedies to treat minor ailments. He even helped the fishermen find better ways to store and sell their catch so they could earn more. Not everyone was happy with his changes. The local tax collectors, men who exploited the village, saw him as a threat. One night, they came to his hut, their eyes full of menace. "Leave Makoko," their leader growled. "This place is not yours to change." But Elijah stood his ground. "This place belongs to those who live here. You have taken enough." The men glared at him, but Baba Ade and the other villagers stood behind Elijah. For the first time, the people of Makoko realized they were stronger together. The tax collectors left, and Elijah remained. One evening, dark clouds gathered over the village. The storm came suddenly, with rain so fierce it felt like bullets against the skin. The waters rose quickly, swallowing houses, sweeping boats away and turning the village into chaos. Elijah, Baba Ade, and the villagers fought to save as many as they could. But tragedy struck when a small boat carrying children capsized. Without hesitation, Elijah dove into the raging waters, fighting the currents and pulled them to safety. One by one, he carried them to shore by his arms burning, his breath ragged. By the time the storm subsided, Makoko lay in ruins, but no one had died. And for that, the people looked to Elijah not just as a teacher, but as a savior. The flood had taken what little the villagers had, but something had changed in them. They no longer waited for help. They became their own salvation. Under Elijah's guidance, they rebuilt stronger and wiser. They built a proper school on a floating platform using donations that Elijah had managed to gather from contacts in the city. They created a small clinic staffed by a young nurse who had once left Makoko but now returned to serve. And through it all, Elijah remained. He had found in Makoko what he had lost in his homeland, a family. Years passed and the village of Makoko flourished in its own way. It was still poor, still struggling, but now it had hope. One day, a well-dressed woman arrived in the village looking for Elijah. It was his sister, Anna, whom he had lost contact with during the war. She had searched for years and had finally found him. "You can come home," she said, tears in her eyes. Elijah looked at the village, at the children reading under the shade of palm trees, at Baba Ade smiling in the distance, and at the people who had become his family. "This is home," he said. And so Elijah, the stranger who had come to Makoko with nothing, remained. The good Samaritan who had given everything. Years later, when Baba Ade passed away, the villagers gathered by the water, candles in their hands, whispering prayers of gratitude. They had not lost a leader but gained a community that stood strong. And Elijah, the man who had once been a wanderer stood among them, knowing that the greatest gift he had ever received was the chance to give. And so, the Good Samaritan of Makoko lived on, not just in stories, but in every child who learned to dream, in every fisherman who learned to stand tall, and in every heart that had learned to keep and help one another. For in the end, kindness is the legacy that never dies. Let me know if you enjoy my story. This is a very interesting story about the Good Samaritan of Makoko. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.